In terms of what it could mean for the United States women's national team, I mean, looking at the sort of overall picture right now, the very way too early overview is, they're going into this tournament as the reigning World Cup champions, right? And not just of 2019, but of 2015.
Hmm.
So they've got a target on their back. They are going to be entering this tournament potentially chasing a three-peat, right? So while it was incredibly difficult to go back to back, I can imagine the mountain to potentially three-peat, right, and get
Oh my
another
God.
star is going to be even more difficult. So looking at just the United States with Vietnam, Netherlands, and the possibility of having either Portugal, Cameroon, or Thailand join them, I just look at this group, Lisa, and it doesn't strike me as a lot of challenges in this
No.
group stage for the United States. So, looking at these teams, they're going to face Vietnam, right? Who's going to be a debutant
Mhm.
in this World Cup, as we've mentioned already, and then the possibility of having either Portugal, Cameroon, or Thailand. Thailand, a team that they faced in their 2019 group stage, it caught a
Mhm.
lot of different uh, type of reactions to that blowout loss. Some folks sort of, reacting negatively to that, saying that was it was a disrespectful result for the World Cup. Others saying that it's disrespectful to not play your best within the World Cup against another team, no matter the state of the programs. So, the possibility that the United States could not only face Vietnam but Thailand again, right?
Yeah,
Two
huge.
Asian teams here. I think people are looking at that and saying, well, this could possibly be an easier path into the knockout rounds for the United
W
States.
I I mean, yes, that's honestly my first reaction. The United States is not in the group of death, not at all. It's not a cakewalk by any means, but looking at how some of these other groups shook out, some of the other nations that could have been drawn into this group with the United States, I mean, this is an easy hand for the US, and that scares me. Honestly, that scares me. I
Yeah,
think the Netherlands being pulled into this group E definitely helps, right? 2019 World Cup final rematch for the United States and the Netherlands in this group stage. Um, I hope that jazzes up the U.S. women's national team a little bit, but this is a group that um, could be seen as a nice like ease into the World Cup and into the knockout rounds because it is just the group stage that they'll be playing in this one, and frankly, that does frighten me a little bit because the United States understands that they have a target on their back, winning back-to-back World Cups. Now coming into this one, they're of course looking to do it again. And every single nation, whether they are the number 2 ranked FIFA nation in the world or it's one of the nations that still is trying to play in, they want to defeat the United States. They want to crush them in between their hands. And I think that the US understands that. And these players realize that not only is there a target on their back, but there's a huge spotlight on their face, especially with how they finished the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, with how they just performed in Europe against England and Spain. I think that this is a team that can rise to the occasion and do it. And I'm really glad that the draw happens 9 months out from the United States first game because
we
that's
have
really
all
what
this
it is.
buildup.
Yes, and now they know, right? So now the team knows. Last November, the United States went to Australia to play in a pair of friendlies in
Yeah,
preparation for this World Cup, to go down under, to play in that country, to play in front of that fan base against a host country in Australia. Now, they haven't been to New Zealand yet. And when you look up the schedule for Group E, they are playing the entire group rounds in New Zealand.
yeah.
So could we see them going to New Zealand in the next 9 months in preparation? Like, I would not be surprised if we see that, if we see Vlatko Andonovski somehow make friendlies happen where this U.S. team goes there and does that, because the group stage is going to start fast, right? They've got Vietnam up first, July 22nd, the United States versus Vietnam, and then the United States versus Netherlands on July
Yeah.
27th. That's so circled. That game is so circled for me because
Yeah.
that will determine really like how the rest of the tournament is going to go for the United States. And then they play
Yeah,
the
I
Group
think
A
it's
winner
gonna
August 1st.
I think that Netherlands game is gonna determine first place of the group, quite frankly. I don't think it's unfair to say that. I'm sure both of those programs already have that game circled on their calendars as well, because that might be the game that the two of those programs are looking at as saying like, hey, how we perform in this one will give us a
Mhm.
base for how we're going to navigate the possibility of a knockout round, right? And I think there's that argument as well. I think there's that argument of like, the United States women's national team has typically been, one of these teams that has sort of gotten stronger within a tournament as it goes on. And while I while history, shows that to be true, I don't know if that's necessarily an argument that can be made for recent form of this team. And I would even include, the 2019 World Cup
Mhm.
within that,
Mhm.
because they had a group that was United States. They were up against good old traditional Sweden, right? Those were the top two teams in that
Old
group,
trusty Sweden.
all reliable, right? So it was United States, Sweden, and then they had Chile and Thailand.
Yep.
So I think even when I'm talking about recent history, I'm even including that 2019 World Cup. That I don't know if this United States program has had one of those tournaments where they can point to it and say, like, here's a tournament where we got stronger as it went on. I don't know if you can make that argument for 2019, as they still close out in that Group F as the top team. They were undefeated in that group stage. They beat Sweden 2-0. They
Yep.
had that massive 13 blowout against Thailand. Jill Ellis started what people considered a B team
Yeah.
against Chile in order to provide full rotation for that team.
And
Um,
that's what I don't want heading into this group. Like, I
but
don't.
they won. But they won in 2019.
I know, I
If
just
you're looking at
don't.
similar recipes, isn't this already building up to be a similar
Yes.
recipe than we saw
Yes,
in
but
2019?
yes, I agree. I think it's a similar type of setup that we have, but I think that from 2019 to 2023, other nations have gotten stronger. They've also
Yes.
figured out the United States and understand how they play a little bit more, because the United States played
Yes.
so many games that there's so much to learn and to watch if you're another nation. I think that the disparity between teams is much less now, and that's what makes me nervous.
I feel you, because we also have an Olympic blueprint that
Yep.
shows that wasn't the case either. That I think folks who were watching it, those of us who were covering it, we were looking at the Tokyo Games and we were saying, "Oh, like any minute now, this United States women's national team is going to continue to
Mhm.
progress further in this tournament and get stronger." And it
And that did
didn't
not
necessarily
happen.
happen. It happened to a certain extent in which they did medal in those Tokyo Olympics, but when you're the program, the number one ranked program in the world that has prided itself on being the best, perhaps that was a bit of a finish that they
Yeah.
didn't want,
And I
despite being
think.
a better finish in 2016.
Right, right, and I think that there is a balance between game management and playing every game like it's your last game, right? Like that it is the World Cup final, and there is that element to game management, but that comes down to so many details that we can't even begin to look at
Yeah,
this point. But I just I I want the United States to go out there and play this group like they are playing against Sweden, like they are playing against England, like they are playing against Germany. That's what I want. Um, it, I mean, we'll see. Time will tell,
we'll
right? Like
see.
bodies, player minutes, like.
We're 9 months out. So here's the other side of this, with that I'm going to present to you, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. The draw has happened. The United States knows what group they're in. They know at least two of the three teams within this group that they are going to face, and the possibility of paths to a World Cup final. Is it now more pressure, less pressure, or does having the visual in
Oh yeah.
front of them, is that going to aid them in prep?
100%. Knowing the draw, understanding who's in your group, who are in the other groups, and what other groups have to go through helps the United States in their preparation for this. I mean, now they understand who they can prepare for. You look at their list that they need to go against Vietnam, the Netherlands. They can understand what nations they need to prepare, the different tactics that they can have, understanding that they will be playing all in New Zealand, a place that they have never played before. The United States has never been to New Zealand and played. So now you have that aspect of it, but you at least have something to grasp and to wrap your head around and to start planning around. Yeah, this helps. That's why they do the draw 9-10 months out from the actual start of the World Cup. So these nations can start preparing for their competitors and they can start coming up with their own personal game plans as they head into these groups. And it's not just the group that you're in that you focus on. You also have to be looking at the other groups and know, okay, when we're looking at other nations are doing, say you look at Sweden in Group G, like, okay, they're going to go up against South Africa and Italy and Argentina. What teams in South Africa, Italy, and Argentina play similarly to the United States? Okay, those are the matches that we're going to really key in on and watch while we're there. Like, and that's all the staff of teams to be doing that. But the planning starts now, like 8 a.m. Saturday morning after the draw.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure all the group chats where we're going off and teams and the coaching staff are reacting to it, right? Head coach Vlatko Danovsky was at the draw, right, getting the reactions of the head coach there, and ultimately Andonovsky alluding to the fact, saying after today, the actual preparation does start for the World Cup
Yep.
in the lead up to July 2023. So we'll see. It's going to be an exciting build up. We're going to be here all along the way to sort of continue the coverage and the path to the World Cup in Australia and New Zealand.